down to Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. This is Alex Toledo. No Ethan Skolnick or Leif Sylvander tonight. With me, I've got Brady Hawk, and we're going to talk about the Heat's 119-104 win in Houston on the second night of a back-to-back. Kind of a redemption win after a pretty tough loss last night against the Sixers. One where, the Heat could have solidified themselves a bit heading into that really important game on Sunday against Indiana. And especially with the Sixers and their cake schedule left, kind of a discouraging loss there standings wise to come back and really take care of business, right? Because the Rockets are not a bad team. They're not a terrible team. They were, until just recently, in the race with the Warriors to kind of get into the play in there in the back end. And they've got a lot of guys there, even with some of their injuries with Şengün out and Amen Thompson and Jae'Sean Tate. They still got some really athletic, fun pieces there. They've got some, still a nice rotation of NBA players, a good coach. That wasn't going to be an easy, guaranteed win by any means, especially, again, on the second night of a back-to-back, a team that's been a top 10 defense all year. And they delivered, man. To get to 119 is already a lot for the Heat, especially, again, good defensive team, back-to-back set. That's not an easy thing to do. And it feels like a lot of things went right. And there's a lot to get into because we got 10 guys who played tonight. And with that, we're going to head right into the Eric Rubenstein injury report.
And now it's time for the official 5 on the Floor injury report, sponsored by our friend Eric Rubenstein, the personal injury attorney. Born and raised in Lauderdale, Florida, lives in Miami, went to St. Thomas. He's a South Florida guy and a huge Miami Heat fan. But the important thing is he can help you get your money that you deserve when something happens to you. So reach out to our guy, Eric Rubenstein. Again, ericrubenstein.com, or ask about me, I got you, on Instagram. And now, the injury report.
So tonight, this is why we're playing this so early. The injury report is clean. Tyler Herro came back tonight, and now everybody that was gone for a while there, mostly like all their shooters, starting with Jovic and Duncan and Tyler being out for so long, all of these guys are back now. You got your full 10-man rotation. And that's what Spo played tonight. And it was interesting to see him go through all those different lineups. I think we're going to save that talk for later on in the show. But we saw some different stuff tonight. And most importantly, headlining all of this, and we're not going to get into our next step, we're going to kind of combine them here together, is our Rock Esports Gamer of the
And now
Night.
on 5 on the Floor, it's time for the Gamer of the Night, sponsored by Rock Esports Center, the place to eat, drink, and play all day. Host your next birthday party with them. Located at 15305 South Dixie Highway in Palmetto Bay. They've got a 5,500 square foot state-of-the-art center equipped with all the high-end power. Play all-day passes available for just $25, but if you mention 5 Reasons, it's just $20. So mention 5 Reasons or 5 RSN. You get to play all day for $20. And now, the Gamer of the Night.
Well, shout out Rock Esports Center. Shout out Eric Rubenstein. We're combining these segments because it's almost impossible not to. So because of the clean injury report, we're going to get into our Rock Esports Center Gamer of the Night. Brady, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about Tyler Herro. I mean, there's guys on this team. There was 2 guys in Jimmy and Bam that had more points in this game. And the funny thing is, I think we were talking about Jimmy in a certain light in this game, and it was like, oh, wait, he has 20? It was like mid-third quarter, and it's like he just kind of I thought it was important, actually, the way he did it, because he got to the line a ton, and I keep saying that matters more than anything with the officiating shift. But enough about those guys. I feel like Tyler was the Gamer of the Night, not just because he returned, but it was the way he did it. Like, he came back and he played his game, and for number one, he did not look rusty. And we kept talking about that on playback tonight watching this game. It was like he looked like he did pre-injury. He looked pretty smooth. He didn't look like he was being held back in any way. So he comes out the gate, and they say it's positionless basketball because it is, and they play certain styles. But he was kind of the guy that was running the one. He was kind of the guy that's playing the point guard, and he was the guy that was getting the ball off the rim, and he was pushing, and he had some really nice passes in transition where he had one early where he got it to Jimmy over the top. He had some other little lead passes he got to some of the other guys. Then it started kind of blending into the half court where it was he was just seeing a lot of attention. There was guys looking at him. They were kind of drawn to him, and he was playing in these lineups, obviously now, because we should mention he came off the bench tonight, and it's kind of a different role. They're trying to work him into it. And he's playing next to some of these guys like Caleb Martin, like Jaime Jaquez, like Haywood Highsmith, who are guys that play well off ball and are cutting constantly. And we saw that immediately. It was like, okay, the attention's on Tyler, dump off pass to Caleb on a cut. Here's this guy coming down, cutting from the corner. And it's like, that stuff matters. And the way he's hitting these guys constantly, I think he finished with 6 assists in this game. Another guy that I didn't even mention that's the recipient of these passes, Bam Adebayo. Like, as much as we talk about the Terry Rozier, Bam kind of pick and roll that they were going to in his absence, the Tyler one, it's hard to explain it, but I would say that the easiest way I can explain the comparison between the two is there's more balance in the Hero Bam pick and roll than the Terry Bam pick and roll. And that's not a bad thing. I just think that there's a little bit more from the both of them that they can work through because Tyler's just such an excellent pocket passer in that way. Like you saw that immediately coming down an empty corner, baseline drives, dumps it off the Bam, and there's his mid-range shot. Like that stuff's just second nature. That's because they've been playing together for so long. Like that's not an indictment on Terry. That's not something that's because they've been great in that range, but it's more so the fact that they have those minutes logged. So the passing from him was great. But here's the main thing that I saw. Like the drives, the attacks, the paint touches, the ability to draw contact. Like there was multiple occasions to come out that gate. He was putting a shoulder into a chest of a defender and he was going up. He had one where Jeff Green was guarding him on the wing. He drove past him, got right past him. I think it was Jabari Smith comes over for the help. It's kind of just, it was a lengthy defender, puts his arms up. Tyler goes right through him as well and kind of gets it over the top of him. He had a bunch of lefty finishes as well in this game. Some really nice finishes. But I thought that stuff mattered. The fact that he comes back in a game like this, kind of thrown into the fire a little bit, playing with a bunch of different lineups because that's what they're forced to do now late in the season, try to find different combinations. Like you said, Alex, we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But I just thought the way he did it, though it wasn't a ton of off-ball stuff, which I think they'll start to work him into a little bit more when he starts playing in those the Terry lineups or when Jimmy sees an uptick. But I thought the drives were important. The passing was important. And I know this isn't like a play of the game worthy type thing because, Alex, I know we were going through different possibilities. But the play with Terry where they kind of had a mix-up in transition, ball comes off the rim, they get an offensive rebound to kick out. Tyler swings it to Terry. Tyler goes to like screen for Terry, ghost screen, goes up to the top of the key. Almost both defenders fly with Tyler. And Terry just steps up right into a wing pull-up three. Like that play matters. That play matters because we need to see the Terry Tyler stuff click. And it seems like it is pretty natural, right out the gate.
And I love that you brought up that play. That was one of my favorite plays of the night as well. I thought it was emblematic of the way that Tyler was playing because, like you said, he was getting plenty of on-ball opportunities coming off the bench, which we've seen in the past. Like it becomes his unit the way, in some of those units where it was him as the shot creator when it was no Jimmy, no Terry, and him initiating the pick and rolls. But the way that he went about it, like you're saying, is what was so impressive to me. Like there was a great balance in his game, in my opinion, right out the gate. And he did it in a way where it never looked like he was shying away, right? Like you see that a lot of times with guys, especially when they're out for as long as guys like Tyler where like they're kind of hesitant. They're maybe just trying to stay out of the way a little bit, trying not to get in the way of things. And especially like when you're just, when you can be concerned about trusting your body to do the things it was doing before. And I didn't really see that from him. He was moving, man. He was really moving out there. And that is what I really loved because that's obviously stuff we were talking about when he was playing. And I think stuff that he was kind of improving on throughout the season was the movement off the ball. Because, again, plenty of on-ball stuff. And I like what he did on ball, but off-ball movement and making quick decisions when you are on ball. That's what I loved. He was making quick, good decisions out there. Like you said, the passing was fantastic. really stood off the page tonight. And even when you look at the box score, 6 assists, 0 turnovers, right? That's like he still got to his buckets, and most of them were inside the arc, like you mentioned. He only shot 1 of 4 from 3. So like he didn't get to his scoring because he made a bunch of threes, which we know he can do, and they kind of still need him to do. He was probably their second best shooter before he went out. But like the way that he was moving there, I never felt it got stagnant. He got plenty of stuff in the mid range. I think the way that he got to the rim and was creating contact and finishing there was really, really encouraging. And the fact that he can give you a little bit of everything, right? And we know that it's always going to lean more towards the jump shots because that's what his game is more suited for, and we want to see him get up more threes. That he was getting up a lot of threes before he was out. I think he only got up 4 or 5 tonight. That's the one thing you could point at because he didn't have a great shooting game. But that's like the last thing you would worry about with him, right? Like the shooting is so certified with Tyler Herro that seeing everything else at such a high level and his movement and the quick decisions again just really stood off the page to me. It's really encouraging that he's to come back against a pretty damn good defense and do this. I thought it was very nice to see, and in general, pretty good ball movement from the team tonight. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get to our Aggressive Insurance play of the night.
And now it's time for the Insurance by Lynette Play of the Night, sponsored by InsuranceByLynette.com and A Aggressive Insurance Agency. You can reach out to our friend Lynette at 954-581-8800. That's 954-581-8800 or InsuranceByLynette.com. That's InsuranceByLynette.com with 2 N's and 2 T's. Your best play for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, condo insurance, life insurance, or a retirement program. Reach out to Lynette at InsuranceByLynette.com.
All right, Brady, what do we got here?
So I'm thinking you could go in a couple different directions. I know we were going through some different possibilities, but I'll say this because this play kind of sums up what I think we should talk about, and it's the defense. Because, I mean, the Rockets scored 104, but they held them under 100 if we're really counting the time that mattered. Like, they scored 4 in the last, 30 seconds in garbage time. And they rolled some punches. Like, there was some certain points in this game where they were really rolling with some punches. And there was the play where Dillon Brooks was rolling in transition. Bam's kind of staying with him and absolutely just takes the ball off the glass. Just absolutely glasses him, grabs the ball. It ended up in a foul, but we're not talking about that part. That part is not the play of the game. The play of the game is the Bam part of it. And the reason it matters is because, look, Dillon Brooks is the guy that was the guy that was forcing them to roll with the punches. He was the guy that there was points in that game where it's like, okay, yeah, they're hitting shots. Yeah, Dillon Brooks is hitting these kind of spot up threes. He's hitting some tough pull-ups. It's like, Miami's okay with that. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world because we know it's going to level out. You're not going to kind of get that type of performance. If you do, then you got to just throw your hands up and say, well, that's not going to happen again. We did what we did. But the game plan was pretty much that they were going to limit certain things. They were going to limit the paint like they usually do. And Dillon Brooks had a really good start to the game. I know he finished with, I think it was 18 points, and it ended up being 5 of 13 shooting. But I just thought that play kind of summarized things because the defense did have a little bit of a turnaround in the second half. I thought they defended a lot better. There was I can't remember, I think it was the end of the second quarter. I could be wrong. It was second or third quarter where Jabari Smith had back-to-back corner threes in the same exact spot where he just kind of got wide open ones. And it was basically because there was an overreaction to the action in the middle of the floor where they're always going to help from that area. They're going to help off that corner. Not the guy you probably want to help off of in that stage, but it's just the way that Miami defends. But either way, I thought they kind of rolled off that part of the game. There were points in this game where even later in toward the fourth quarter time where Jalen Green back-to-back huge threes above the arc and that's against the zone where I know Alex wasn't a fan of that shot, those shots specifically. But Miami stayed in the zone in respect to them because I kind of felt like at the time I was like, okay, it's time to pull out the zone now. Like he's kind of just shooting over the top of it. They're not really contesting it. And they stayed with it. They just played in the zone a little bit higher. They played, in that range and they were able to escape. So the other thing I'll say, Alex, real quickly, because I know it's getting away from it, because I know we wanted to roll into the Bam topic, but I will say it's a good thing Jimmy got the fourth quarter off. I mean, it's that feels pretty important in a time of end of the season, needing him to play at a higher level before the playoffs, and the fact that this is a big game Sunday. not the worst thing in the world that he got that fourth quarter off. But yeah, I mean, I'll throw it back to you because what did you think of Bam's game? Because he was pretty efficient. Like he was in probably gamer of the night range, but it's just because Tyler kind of had the pop in the return game.
For sure, Tyler was deserving, and I thought Bam was as well. Like you're saying, I thought Bam was pretty all around, man. I thought he was pretty efficient, and when just like looking at the box score stuff, 7 to 12, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal and a block, 4 from the free throw line. Like he's kind of giving you everything there. Only 1 turnover with the 6 assists. Pretty damn good game. And not to mention, like you're talking about there, the defense, which I'm glad you brought up because it's a huge part of who they've been, obviously, forever now. Since Pat Riley has been here, it's like if you don't have that defensive identity down, they're probably not going to be successful, is kind of what we tended to see with the Heat throughout the years. And the fact that they've gotten, I think, a lot of that stuff together in the second half of the season, like they've been, I think, a top 5 defense since, in this second half of the season. And tonight you saw them, you saw the Rockets, the Heat hold the Rockets to 52% at the rim, 14 of 27, or at least within 4 feet of the rim, 6 of 19 in the mid-range, which is 31.6% and 23% in the short mid-range. And then not to mention the Heat, who are always going to force you in or are all forced to take open shots with the way that they love to pack the paint. They took 44 threes. The Rockets are a team who likes to attack first, so they kind of took them out of their game. Like you said, the zone has just been really reliable for them, whether it's with or without the press, kind of in the in the full court. There's different variations, and I love the way that Spo is kind of figuring out the balance of when to go with it. And I think there's something there with that. I think that is something that we're going to continue to see in the playoffs, where I don't think it's going to be it's black and white. I think Spo has gotten good about when to do it, but like you really held them to low shooting from just about every spot on the floor, other than the corner 3. The only place that the Rockets shot it well tonight, 4 of 7. Every other spot on the floor, including from 3 overall, where they shot under 32%. So fantastic from them, and you held them to a 21st percentile offensive rating in the half court and overall. So the Rockets are not necessarily known for the offense in the first place, but still, like you did your job on the second night of a back-to-back on the defensive end and did it at a really high level while also having a pretty good offensive night. Like the Heat finished with a 119 offensive rating overall, 102 in the half court. Both of those are 62nd percentile. So above average, right? And like we said, just looking at like eye test stuff, I think you saw a lot of good things with the offense tonight. I thought there was a lot of great ball movement. With Jovic, I thought Duncan, didn't have like an amazing night, but starting to get back into the groove a little bit there ever since he's gotten back. I think, you're probably starting to see the beginning of him getting back to normal, to somewhat of a normal for him. But what was I going to say? Oh, with Tyler, man, the ball movement was fantastic. I thought the team's ball movement overall was fantastic. And something I wanted to get into with you was the different the different lineups and the amount of different lineups we got to see out there. With Tyler coming back and with everybody back in the mix now with 10 guys, he played a 10-man rotation, which is a little bit weird for Spo, but I'm glad he's doing it. I think the team is to do that. And the way they did it was very weird. We saw a lot of different units. We saw even Bam and K-Love units, which we haven't seen too much of this season. We saw units where Tyler and Terry were together. We saw units where it was Tyler and Duncan with Bam. I think that was when he first joined the game. Like we saw a lot of different variations of lineups there, including Terry and Bam back together. You got into it earlier with their 2-man game, and we've seen that so much in the past. And I think what Spo ultimately was playing around with was kind of like the non-Jimmy and K-Love led units, because I feel like those have kind of been the most reliable ones all season. And I think outside of that, he was playing with a lot of different variations. It was kind of all over the place, and I'm glad to see it, because I do think he kind of like, this is the time to do it. It's kind of now or never. And just wanted to get your thoughts about it and just kind of the way that he went about tonight with those lineups, because it was very unusual for Spo.
Yeah, so I've been going back and forth on it. And when I say I've been going back and forth on it, I mean Terry, Tyler, Jimmy, Bam. they're going to stagger. There's going to be at times when there's 3 of those guys. There's going to be at times when there's 4 of those guys. There's going to be different variations. But for the most part, they're going to try to do 2 and 2. That's just always how you're going to split it up. So it comes down to which guy plays better off which guy. And that's why I was kind of talking about the Tyler and Bam difference with the Terry and Bam difference. And I was of the thought for the last few weeks, and I still might be there, that Terry and Bam and Tyler and Jimmy is the way that they're going to lean. That's just the way that I think they're eventually going to go. And it's not to say that it's because of a certain pick and roll dynamic. I think it's more so the way that they're running their lineups recently. It trends in that direction for me. Like the way that they're doing this thing where they're running 4 wings and Love almost makes me feel like, let's say in those lineups, instead of Jaime, it's just Tyler, where it's just the extra shooter, the extra scorer, and they still play at that same type of offense they want to play in that lineup. And there are a lot of times they're zone anyways, where Tyler can play the bottom box, and they still have Haywood and everybody up there just kind of wrecking havoc. That it just makes the most sense. That's kind of the way I think they're going to go. And look, yeah, maybe Tyler and Bam have more chemistry just because they played longer, and Tyler kind of feeds that pocket pass, the ability to hit the jumper. But like Terry and Bam have looked good. They've had a good connection. And I think if you're going to run a certain lineup, Terry, Duncan, Bam has pretty good synergy. Like they just have pretty good synergy, and they have a pretty good dynamic to start games with the way that they've been doing things, because they bring Jimmy out early. Like it's Jimmy exits, it's Terry, Duncan, Jovic, Bam, and then whoever enters for Jimmy there. It's usually Caleb or somebody like that, and then Jimmy comes back in with Kevin. So I think it becomes a certain point where they're gonna have to make that decision, and that's why, to your point, that's the reason why we saw so many combinations in this game. It's because you have to figure that stuff out. And that's why it's such a shame. That's like, this is why we wanted them to be healthy. It's not just because, we want to be out of the play-in, we want a better record or this and that. Like, no. Yeah, I guess you do want that too, but you want the ability to find different combinations that work. You want to be able to figure out something so that, game 1 of the play-in, game 1 of the playoffs, you're not throwing it all out there and trying to figure out that time. So do I think they're going to run a 10-man rotation moving forward in a playoff setting? No, I don't. I think it's going to get to 9. And as much as I hate to say it, I do think it's becoming more evident that it's becoming Haywood or Jaime. That's kind of the way that we're trending, that it's going to be a one or the other kind of thing, because you're not taking out Caleb, obviously not taking out Tyler, Duncan, Terry, and you're not taking out Kevin Love. Because, by the way, Alex, the fact that we didn't mention Kevin Love yet is probably bad on our part. Because man, does that guy help them in so many ways. Man, does he save them. And man, does it make him more apparent on the final, the recent stretch where they didn't have him, how much they missed him. As good as, we thought Thomas Bryant played pretty decent across that time. But like Kevin Love comes back, you're like, man, they really lean on this guy. The offensive rebounds, the activity, the bruises, averaging 3 bruises every game, the spacing he provides in these lineups that we're talking about, like that stuff matters. So I'll ask you one question so we can finish it up here, because I know, and I'm almost not wanting to ask it because I feel like this might be a podcast tomorrow when Ethan pops back into the picture, but I'm going to throw you a tough question so I could be, throw the Ethan question. On Sunday, when they play the Pacers, who's the starting shooting guard?
That's not tough. It should still be Duncan. I think the way that it's gone has just made it so much easier for Spo to be like, just roll with what you have right now. It just makes too much sense. Like, I wouldn't be mad if Tyler went back to the starting lineup. Like, I know it's a really polarizing topic. And I wouldn't
for no reason. It should not be a polarizing topic, but everything's a polarizing topic with him.
It's at worst debatable, right? Because, Duncan and Tyler, it's definitely got a lot of merit to it. Like, they both bring different things to the game. Duncan has obviously been great as a starter, and Tyler, I think to give him credit, he's been pretty good as a starter too. People like to act like it's only Duncan that's been good as a starter. The problem is, like, you weren't getting a lot of that same impact from Duncan coming off the bench, and we talked about it before. It has more to do with the units he's in and making sure, he's getting that 2-man game in with Bam more often than not, playing with Jimmy as well. And just in general, like, him being involved in the offense is essential. So I think you can replicate that whether he's coming off the bench or not, in theory, but not if you're not going to put him in the right lineups. Regardless, you need Duncan to get back into his groove. So I think keeping him in the starting lineup is a better way to do that. Sending him to the bench now, I don't know that that's the the solution. I think especially
Mhm.
with how Tyler played tonight, like I would probably just do with like exactly what they did tonight. And I think
I agree.
I'm with you that I would expect Spo to probably go with 9 in the playoffs. But if he were to go with 10, what we saw tonight is a pretty good, I think, representative sample of how it would look like when you just look at minute distribution. Like Jovic played 15 and a half. KO played under 15. Jaquez played 19. That probably goes down. Even if it's a smaller number. Like I think that's what it would be, right? Like is he kind of like you're prioritizing who you're playing a little bit more, but and guys are getting shorter stints than they were in the regular season, and I think he can do it if he really wants to. And I do agree with you that it's probably going to come down to Hayward or Jaime, and I think Jaime is right now probably the odd man out if it does go to 9 because guys are sagging off of him. And I think it's affecting him because he is not getting those post touches. And I think if you're not giving him those post touches, you're kind of turning him into a spacer more often than not. And that's just not where he's best utilized. I'm not saying he doesn't bring you anything else because he finds ways to score, even though he's not a spot up shooter. Like tonight, he gave you 12 points, right? He in 19 minutes gave you 12 points, 2 rebounds and assists, 2 steals, 5 of 7, and went 2 of 3 from 3, by the way. So let me give him some credit there. But when he's not hitting the 3, I feel like some of his moves have been scouted. We've talked about this plenty. And it's a little tough, man, because if you're going to be playing lineups with multiple wings out there who they might be sagging off on, like Haywood, right? I think it's going to be tough to play 10. I think Jaime deserves a shot. Like I would be kind of disappointed if the playoffs started today, right? And Jaime was just out of it after the season he had. Where, like you
Even if
said,
he
I was
was
kind
out
of
of the 9, he'll get spot minutes. I
no
do
for sure,
I do believe that.
for sure. I think so too.
And it's matchup based, right? Like I feel like there are certain matchups, and that's probably a podcast where we could probably pinpoint certain matchups to probably fit certain guys. But like there definitely are matchups that fit both. And look, there was a few weeks ago. I don't know. I can't remember if you were on the same page as me, but I felt like Jaime would close some playoff games. Like that was
Oh
the
yeah,
point that we were at with him.
yeah,
That this is kind of an up and down thing, but I think the thing that hurts him is the fact that everybody being healthy and coming back and needing the ball in their hands. It's like if he's not getting the post touches and the things that you're talking about and having the
yeah.
ball in his hands, then it's not going to happen now, and it's not going to happen in a playoff setting. It's all the stuff that you just mentioned the other plays, the offensive rebounding, the cutting, and the spot up shooting. And in the spot up shooting is the thing that's kind of hurting right now because he's put in a role that he doesn't really want to be in. And it was one of those things that, we remember watching him at training camp where he was like, remember he was just drilling the spot up shooting with their shooting coach. It was like, okay, this is the thing that they're going to work on. This is the thing that's long term, that's eventually going to matter. And it's just happened quicker because they have so many on ball threats.
And honestly, like if you remember, he started the season shooting really well from 3. On
Right.
top of everything else he was doing, and that kind of really tailed off there. And I think some of it, in this recent stretch where they were missing all their shooters, I think that just made it harder for everybody that was playing. Everybody was playing in just way more crowded spaces. And I think tonight, like you saw, like all the ball movement stuff we've been talking about, I think that's a product of them having so much of their shooters back. And it's like, oh wait, you have guys that people are scared of, shooting open threes on the floor again, and you could kind of just play off of that. And the ball was really popping out there, man. And I think like if you can get that consistently, I would feel much better about this team. And also that relates to Jaime as well, because I think he thrives even when he's not getting those post touches, which I still think they should give him some, right? Because I know it's way easier said than done with the amount of metaphorical mouths they have to feed with the ball there on their team as it stands. But really, man, like when the ball is moving like that, I think it makes things easier for Jaime too. And I thought he looked pretty good tonight as a result. Like he was, he wasn't getting those post touches, but he was seeing the ball and making quick decisions with it. And I think, it was nice to see. It's going to be really interesting to see how they manage all of this going forward, because like we talked about the minutes distribution, the shot distribution was kind of interesting to see that tonight as well with everybody back. Shout out to Ray for pointing this out on Twitter. But like, it finished with Jimmy 14 field goal attempts, 12 for Bam, 10 for Terry, 14 for Tyler, 9 for Caleb. I don't know if that matches up with the theme here, but like it was pretty balanced for like their best players took most of the shots, but then you got 7 from Jovic, 6 from Duncan, 5 from K-Love, 5 from Haywood, 7 from Jaime, and like I already said, 9 from Caleb. Like you got a little bit out of everyone, and I thought there was a really nice balance tonight, and I thought that was pleasantly surprising for a team that is just now getting Tyler back into the mix. Like you think that'd be a really tough cog to just throw back in there, and for things to look so balanced and so poised. Like I thought I was absolutely expecting more stagnancy on the offensive end, not because of Tyler. I'm not talking down on him, but just in general, like second night of a back-to-back, good defense. You're introducing this piece back in. And I thought there was going to be more struggles than there were. But, we've done a lot of talking here, specifically me. And we're going to wrap it up here because there's a lot more basketball to be played. And we're probably going to do a podcast before the next Heat basketball game is played. So we're going to save some of that. But thank you guys for joining us. Before we close up, do want to mention our Discord server, the Off the Floor Discord server. The link is going to be in the description for this podcast, whether you see it on the podcast feed or on YouTube. It's going to be there. You can also find it, I believe, pinned to the top of the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter account. Check us out there. A lot of channels, a lot of conversation going on, especially a lot of Heat conversation. And honestly, that is where most of our coverage is going to now, especially on game days. Like everything is going there. And then Twitter just kind of gets some of the script. Brady is throwing his insights on there. I throw my stats on there. Leif gives you his game notes. He gives you the guys that the Heat are scouting on the college end. And, in the offseason, you already know Leif and Ethan are going to give you everything sourced. It's going to go straight to Discord. So check that out. We're going to be ramping up now for the playoffs. And then speaking of ramping up for the playoffs, also check us out on Playback, where we watch the games, every game, live with the fans, interact with everybody. It's really casual. It's a great time. I had another great time tonight with our guy Matt, with Major Passes with Brady, and just watching it with everybody there. And man, just getting excited thinking about the playoff run and for those road games that we're going to be doing on Playback, because that was a really fun time witnessing that Cinderella run with everybody last year. So check us out on playback.tv/5RSN, or you can download the Playback app and catch it with us on there. We also are doing off-day pods. Well, not off-day pods, off-day live shows on Playback. We also have, our people from the Dolphins and covering the Dolphins doing stuff on Playback. So check it out. And I'm done here now. Brady, thank you for joining me. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. We're going to have more coverage with you. We're going to be covering Heat Pacers on Sunday. So look forward to that. Thank you guys. Have a good night.